Welcome to Security Nation, an ESA podcast that brings you the voice of electronic security and life safety. We bring on security pros to discuss the latest industry happenings, new technology, and best practices, telling your story to become the ever-present voice in an ever-changing industry. I'd like to introduce this episode's guest, Jamie Vos, who was ESA's chairman from 2020 through 2022. And Jamie has been in the industry for 25 years and owns and operates Security Solutions Northwest in Washington State. And he started in the physical security world of locksmithing and then moved into fire and life safety and then eventually settled into the security world. This varied experience gives him a unique perspective on security and helping his team and customers remain secure on the cutting edge of security. Welcome to the podcast, Jamie.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Right off the bat, I'd just like to say I'm super excited that ESA is starting a podcast and that I get to be a part of it. I just wanted to share a little bit about what our goal is. Our goal is just to create a virtual environment. Hopefully, we'll have some in-person stuff too eventually, but we want to bring security pros together to connect and grow and collaborate because when we bring people together, that's when we can really, come to solutions together and no one should have to do everything on their own. So the industry that we're in, we know that there's constantly new verticals, new technologies, new things. I mean, the pandemic, you were the chairman during the brunt of the pandemic, so I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. Things can come out of nowhere, and if we can come together and have a way for ESA to be involved and ever present, and I think a podcast is a good medium to be ever present with those new changes. I think it'll help our members, integrators, and the industry as a whole. So thanks again for being a part of this on our inaugural episode.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm a consumer of podcasts, so I'm really excited to be able to participate in this one. Yep,
Absolutely.
I'm excited that ESA is starting one.
Oh, yeah. Hear, hear. So tell our listeners a little bit about your background, Jamie, in case maybe someone isn't a member of the ESA. Just tell them a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I came into the industry. I'm second generation. So got a start under my dad, and then really started in the locksmithing world, kind of as you said, Hannah, and then really moved into different areas of our company. Our company does a lot of different things, and then ultimately the electronic security world, I should say, rather than the physical. So it's been a very exciting journey for me. Ultimately taking on more responsibility, getting to be in leadership in different areas, and then eventually buying the business. My brother and I bought the business from my dad, and then leading the company into new territories and opening a second office. So we're very excited to do what we do. But that, as I kind of said in the intro, or you kind of said in the intro, that varied level of experience has really allowed me the ability to grow and learn a lot of different things and see kind of the world as a more of a global security presence than just my myopic maybe video cameras or this. Um, and then my kind of my experience in the volunteer world. How did I really do? Well, having been in locksmithing, I needed to learn security, and this really got me started on my journey in the association world. If anyone read the article that I put out, kind of where I started and please volunteer. It was interesting. I got to see a past president, Weinstock winner Mike Miller. He opened up his business to me. Got to sit down with him, hear kind of from his team, his perspective on the security world. Understand a lot more about what our business can do to position itself properly to be able to capture more market share and be better in the industry. And I asked him, what can I do for you? And he goes, well, you're now on the board of Washington Electronic Security Association. I said, oh, okay, I guess that's what I can do for you. And that started my journey. That was still in the chapter programs. And so it got me involved in national, eventually becoming president of the Washington and then into national. So it's been very, very exciting journey. Met a lot of really great people along the way, as you mentioned, sharing ideas and understanding. It's just so much fun.
No, that's great to hear. That's great to hear. So you became the chairman then of ESA in 2020. So quite the year to get inducted into that. I think we could all say. How was your experience in that? How did you deal with all the radical changes that were going on?
It's an interesting time. COVID presented challenges across every industry,
Hmm.
and security was no different. The association, it was interesting working with Merlin as CEO of the association and talking about how are we going to be set up for remote. And ESA had done a really good job of preparing for that for very different reasons. They'd already had a remote workforce and different ways to be able to accomplish it. So from a staffing perspective in ESA, they were really quite prepared. So I didn't have to take on much of a burden or a role there. Leadership was very, very much in tune. However, making sure that we got information out to our members was the biggest challenge. As we looked and we said, are we a critical industry? Are we an essential industry? Are we going to be able to continue working when maybe others can't? How do we make sure that our employees are cared for during a time when we don't know if we're going to be able to send them home? Are we going to have work for them? And how are we going to do that? That became the biggest challenge during that time, and making sure that we could get those resources out. I'm really happy to say the team at ESA, I think, did an extraordinary job coming up with resources, putting the legislation out. They had a rolling ticker saying, hey, listen, this is what's going on in the industry. This is what's happening. Pulling different associations together and working with different other industry resources. Um, and that all happens outside of the chair. So that really I can put back towards the ESA professional staff and their ability to be able to capture and move very rapidly through what was just changing circumstances and challenges that were presented with us. But pulling people together, pulling little panels together, and getting the opportunity to be able to network and find out what are other people doing, how are they addressing it. I remember we had a big meeting, a Zoom thing where we had 45 or so people on, and being able to hear from my friends in the industry and make new friends through that process was really, really exciting.
No, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, it was just a crazy time, and I think it was definitely one of those moments where really we needed all hands on deck, um, because things were just, I mean, so crazy in every industry. And you're right, like the questions of will I be working? Can I be working? Should I be working? Do we have the resources to do everything that we need to do? Do we need, PPP? I don't know, everything all of a sudden was changing, and we really did need to find ways to network and collaborate and get groups together, I think, in a real tangible way that I think showed us that, I don't know, it was one of those events where it was like, okay, like now we actually need to, but now we understand truly the benefit of preparing for future use cases, future situations, that we have these committees and associations together for a reason, because crisis can come out of any corner. Um, how do you feel? How did you have to like adapt your vision or adapt maybe your workload or your way of thinking as new things presented itself? And like, how would you give any advice to future chairs on how to deal with change?
Yeah. So specifically coming at it from the ESA perspective and the chair of the ESA, I think the biggest challenge and every every single association had the ability and the opportunity to be able to deal with this. But really, as you move away from live events, as you moved away from the other things, a lot of that stuff provides a very, very large financial benefit to the organization. And not having those things and not knowing when they're going to come back really creates a financially shaky world. And ultimately, to be able to pull together and look and say, what is the ways that we can make the organization exceptionally robust and sustainable so that in the event that we have a challenge in the future, we make sure that we can continue to serve our members in the best possible way. And we take care of our people, right? All of the professional staff that work at ESA. So we have these two kind of things that we need to do. We need to make sure that we're providing for our members through all of these challenges, making sure that we're developing that content that requires our staff to be able to do that. And how do we make sure that our foundation is super solid? We have the opportunity to be able to do that, and you pivot to where you need to be. And so for us during that time, where it might have been fun to go out, shake hands, kiss some babies, do the parade wave, that wasn't what's called for. And what we needed to do is we needed to buckle down. We needed to put our hip waders on, and we needed to wade through some mud to be able to come out through the other side healthy. And I'm happy to say we're rocking.
Yep.
And it's an exciting time to be part of our industry. And as our industry continues to grow, and now faced with the supply chain side of things, what can we do? How do we continue on? Maybe I have the work, but I can't do the work because I don't got the stuff. So we just move from one challenge to another. Everybody is going to face their own challenges in their own time through whatever's going on. And it's just, being willing to pivot, understanding when you need to.
Yeah, absolutely. So you actually mentioned, who knows where in the pandemic we are, if we're in the middle, at the end. It's very confusing. But we are dealing with different issues than we were, let's say, in 2020. So with that, you mentioned supply chain, and there's also the workforce, developing a workforce, keeping the workforce that we do have. Would you say, well, I guess I'll frame it differently. Like, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that our industry is facing right now? And what is our role within those challenges?
Yeah. So there's really two big challenges that the industry is facing. One is supply chain issues, and that's every industry out there. So the good news is that's not sold to us. It doesn't mean that we're immune, and it doesn't mean that we don't have the challenges as it relates to it. But it's everybody is experiencing that. So understanding that we're technology, and every technology industry, well, I mean almost every industry is facing this. How do we navigate that? And I think the best thing that we can really do is connect people to one another. ESA isn't going to find a silver bullet to solve the supply chain issues. It's just reality. We're not just sitting on a nest egg of chips that we can ship to HID to produce readers tomorrow. It's just not what we do.
Yeah.
So how do we do it? We connect people. And I think, as the EMP groups, I had a couple of my employees involved in the EMP groups, and can't wait to reactivate as I come out of the chair role in that as well. But one of my guys came back and with just great ideas coming through that group and saying, how are you dealing with this? What are you doing differently? Are you ordering early? If you order early, how do you deal with the return challenges if the customer changes their mind, or you deal with you need something different by the time you get on site? How are we navigating those challenges? And I think the best thing is to get a better idea about how other peers are doing that across things. So I think the EMP groups, and I would encourage anyone listening to this, if you do not belong to one, sign up today. Don't put it off till tomorrow. I really do believe that it's one of the most powerful products that we can actually give to somebody, and it's free. As long as you're willing to participate, it's free. So that's one way that we have the ability to be able to look at the supply chain issue. And I know that doesn't answer the supply chain issue, but what it does is it gives us the tools necessary to understand what other people are doing that maybe we haven't thought of before. And then on the other side, we talk about, we were talking about supply chain. The other biggest challenge, and you mentioned this, is really workforce and workforce development. And how in the world are we going to look at workforce development differently? Because we keep on saying it's an issue. We keep on saying it's an issue. And NTS is doing a great job once we get somebody, but how do you get that person?
Yep.
So with ESA and SIA, the Security Industry Association, coming together and really developing FAST, the Foundation for Advancing Security Talent. That is a vehicle and a mechanism financially backed by both organizations that is going to be making runs at solving this problem, attracting people to our industry, helping education understand that there is this driving need and a great career here. We've not been as aggressive and as good as the electricals out there, and the electricians, the plumbers, the other trades that maybe promote their industries very, very different. We've just not done that, and I think it's time. And so I'm really excited about seeing the Foundation for Advancing Security Talent really come into its own, get his feet underneath it, and really start to pound the pavement. And any ideas, by the way, if anyone is doing something successful out there and they're willing to share, let's share that together. Let's find out if you have connections with community colleges or tech colleges. Let's grow together. Let's grow our industry. Our industry grows, becomes more professional. That's a rising tide. All the boats are going to float. So.
No, yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, that was one of the reasons we decided to start a podcast is that idea of rising tide, floats all ships. If we can get good information and good connections, and if we can get that information out there to people, why not? It helps all of us if we help each other.
Absolutely.
And you kind of hit on this NTS, so that's ESA's National Training School, and we developed that, and I think it is huge in not only developing skills and making sure everyone's licensed and certified, but also really helps with, in my opinion, retention. Do you think you could touch a little bit more on the National Training School for possible integrators that don't know about it?
Yeah, so the National Training School has been around for some time, and it really helps in a few different ways. Not only to be able to get a professional education, right? I mean, we're bringing in industry experts, and we're doing the best we can to be able to provide relevant information for you to be able to have the technicians come up to speed as quickly as possible with a base level of knowledge versus flailing around in the dark trying to find a flashlight. We're gonna provide you a little bit of light, that guidance, and then you can go as deep as you want to. So number one, it helps speed up the process towards professionalization. The second thing that I'd say is that, when you have state licensing issues, not only can you get, the necessary training to be able to provide, but, it's not just a checkbox. I love that. It's not just a checkbox. It's an actual education towards what you're going to be doing. So you're not just taking a code cast, or you're not just taking a checkbox. I'm actually investing in my career to grow my skills and my talents. And as an owner, I get the opportunity to be able to give people that tool and that stuff. So for me, it's an extremely valuable. And then we have the CFET program, which is Certified Fire Alarm Technician, right? So
Yep.
as you look towards that, you now have where you've got an ISET and you go study by yourself, and then you go in and you test it, and then you try to navigate the NICET nonsense. That's what I call it. We have a method by which we can train people up. So we're not just telling you to take the test. We're telling you we're going to partner with you. We're going to come alongside you, and we're going to help you get that education so that you have the confidence to be able to pass that test. I mean, what a powerful statement when you can partner with somebody, walk them through the classes necessary for them to gain the knowledge to be able to be a better professional. Really, really exciting. Happy to say that we are put into the appendix of the latest code. So that should clear the skids for a lot of jurisdictions that maybe don't accept it now. So if anybody wants information on how to be able to do that, I would really encourage you to reach out to the NTS team, and we'll work diligently alongside any state or jurisdiction to be able to get that approved.
No, yeah,
No.
that's fabulous. Our NTS team is amazing, very well versed in all the things. And I think one of the things that I think employees want is upward mobility, knowing that their employer cares not just about the business itself, but it cares about the individuals that make up that business and their future and their career development. Um, I can't remember. I know Parks Research, I think, did something on this. Hopefully, I'm not wrong, but they've put out some information basically saying that one of the big reasons that people are leaving their organizations is because they don't feel like they have upward mobility. And so if you provide ways for people to be able to see where they're at and develop their skills, I mean, that could make all the difference in retaining and developing a more skilled workforce. Um, so kind of shifting gears a little bit. So you are now uh, we're now handing off, I guess, the torch, so to speak, to our next chairman, John Loud. How I don't know, maybe give a few thoughts on that, on how you feel John will be as ESA's next chairman. If you were here, maybe, like words of advice that you give to him. I don't know. Give us some thoughts on that.
Words of advice: don't start a pandemic. John, John's extraordinary. John with Loud Security has just done a phenomenal job growing his business and putting himself in a position and his business in a position to where he just grows leaders. It's one of the most exciting things to be around him is contagious. His energy is so just so bright, and
Mhm.
so it's just really exciting. But beyond all of that, his ability to grow leaders and what he's done with his leadership in his organization and handing off responsibility and providing a vision for what the future is going to look like. I think he's so skilled at that. I think, where we had to batten down the hatches, we had to buckle down, we had to really set a tone during the chairmanship that I got the opportunity to be able to invest into ESA. I think this idea that we're going to be looking at now this wonderful springboard to be able to launch into the future, I'm really excited as he starts to really lay out that vision for what that future is going to look like. Um, and vision is something he doesn't lack.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. And he's not the guy that puts a vision out that's not attainable. He wants whatever happens to be right, sustainable, and long term. And so I'm really excited to see as he really comes into this, what that's going to look like and how he's going to position ESA to be that ever present and relevant resource moving forward to every single security integrator out there. So I'm very, very excited to see what that looks like from his perspective. I don't want to tip any cards or show any hands here, so I know that he will be on very soon. But just that idea that he wants to grow leaders, that he's going to bring in exceptional talent into the organization. He's so widely connected, and we're already seeing that come to fruition. And I'm just very, very excited to be able to serve under his leadership for the next 2 years.
No, yeah, I
No,
think
yeah.
it's going to be great. I've so my role at ESA, I'm our marketing manager, and I also kind of handle the editorial for our magazine, which is also called Security Nation. Check it out if you haven't. And I've been working on the cover story for our next edition, which is John Loud becoming ESA's next chairman. And with that, I was able to interview him, and also I was able to interview one of his employees at Loud Security a little bit about her experience working with John. And I won't spill everything because it's going to be in the piece, and I want you to read it. But something that really stood out to me was that she was saying that he is someone who truly gives his heart in everything. He puts everything he has into it, and he's not going to agree to doing something unless he's going to give everything he's got and thinks that he can. And so that was really encouraging, I don't know if that would be the right word, encouraging to me, exciting to me to think that, okay, if John's taking on this position at ESA, it's because he wants to give it all he's got, and he thinks he has what it takes. So exciting stuff. And well, with him stepping in and you essentially stepping down now that you've served your 2-year term, what are some plans for your future, either at your company, or do you plan on doing some other volunteer work? Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so there's my plans and then what my wife's plans are for me. So gotta be careful, and I hope she doesn't listen. No. Uh, so ultimately, I look forward to continuing to support ESA through the next 2 years. I know that John's got some ideas about what my volunteerism is going to look like, and as you mentioned, he doesn't take his foot off the gas.
Yep.
He's going to give heart, soul, and everything, and utilize every resource at his disposal. So I'm going to be cautious about what the next 2 years looks like for me until he knows what he needs me to accomplish. Because I'm excited. I mentioned that before. I'm excited for what his vision is going to look like for ESA and that sustainable look towards what the future is going to be. And I want to be part of that. So I want to be available and as a resource to him during this time and this opportunity, because I think it's just going to be fun. Not only is it going to be fun, it's going to be very, very valuable. So I want to continue to be a resource for him. So that'll be very, very active in the ESA world. Other volunteer opportunities. I'm significantly involved in my church, and I'm taking on a teaching role within that. And as I look towards that, that's going to involve a lot more time, and so I'm looking forward to be able to invest myself fully, or more fully, into that particular role as the school year begins to start. So I'm excited about that. So that will consume my extra time that I may be able to give up for ESA. Much like John, I invest myself into what I'm doing, and I do it as 100% as I possibly can. And the business will be no different. We'll continue to grow. We've got some exciting plans for what that might look like in the future. And I'm just really excited to be able to give into that as well. So I believe our industry isn't going to stop growing. I know that we are coming into some financially uncertain times as we're faced with inflation and potentially stagflation. And my wife was revealing to me this morning that 100 business leaders were interviewed, and they believe a recession is coming. So as we look through all of those challenges, I believe our industry is positioned exceptionally well to weather that better than almost any other industry. I just believe that we are going to be, there's going to be what we call force multiplication, and you're going to need more cameras installed. You're going to need more doors of access so you can monitor better. As you have buildings that maybe don't have the same staffing levels as they had prior, you're going to need more security in those buildings, especially as we're faced with the law enforcement challenges that we're faced with in this nation today. Law enforcement isn't getting the resources that maybe they need in order to be able to meet the demand of the mental health crisis that we have that's leading to homelessness and maybe an uptick in crime. And so I just believe that we are positioned in a way that we can not only help our society, but I think our industry will continue to grow and continue to be positioned really, really well.
No, yeah, I agree. Kind of it's like a, depending on how you look at it, like unfortunate and fortunate, because the industry we're in within certain times and risks going up or crime going up, depending. With all those things, security and monitoring become more and more important. So we are definitely kind of a, I guess you could say, like a cornerstone in I guess you would say maybe society, technology, modernity. Security has become extremely important, and with that, I mean, we were considered essential businesses throughout the pandemic, so that's extremely heartening. Um, so I guess I just have a final question since we're about at time. What would you say to some security pro who is considering ESA membership? What would you say to them?
Don't wait. It's affordable. Uh, the value, the value you get out of ESA is also what you put into ESA. So I would say that don't become a member just to sit back and say, what's ESA going to do for me? Almost any membership. I mean, you can join a gym and say, what's this gym going to do for me? And if you sit on the outside and look in, I mean, you're not going to lose the weight you're hoping to lose,
Okay.
right? So any membership is not only what you get out of it, but what you can give into it. So be active in an EMP group. It's a great first start to be able to look at what the benefits are going to reap you, or what benefits you will reap from that engagement is what I meant to say. Uh, but when you get together with peers, when you start networking, when you start to understand more what other companies are doing and how they're doing it and how they're successful. I know that in my ESX portfolio, I love sharing my mistakes with other people in the hope that they won't make that same mistake. And oftentimes, when you're willing to share, and I have far more mistakes than I have successes, so I have far more stories on that side than I do the success side. Um, but as we're vulnerable and we open up and we share those mistakes, it's amazing how many other people have been through that same process and possibly even have solutions that we haven't thought of. Um, and will grow your business. I know that I put a in the welcome to ESX letter. I won't share all the stories, but you can go through and look at the welcome to ESX letter. That's everybody has the ability to be able to see that and see the different things that we have and how I have grown through this, and how in doing that it was a privilege to step into the chairmanship role because of how much I've grown personally and professionally through this process. The other thing is, don't be afraid to ask questions, and invest into other people, and you'll be surprised what you can reap out of it. I know that I've got a lifelong mentor who's not only on the now business side. I can call him when I'm faced with massive challenges, but also personally. We've been able to talk to each other and say, this is what's going on personally. And just for him to be able to lift me up and say, hey, listen, don't worry, this too will pass. And you're going to get through this time. And I know I've had challenging times in my personal life and career and different things. And this is kind of, you're going to get past it. So let's look at past it and let's focus on past it. And then we can deal with what's in front of us. But just those encouragements are just extraordinary, and you can build those lifelong friendships and mentorships.
No, yeah, I think that's great. I strongly believe in the importance of having space to be vulnerable, a little messy, in order for true connections and true growth to happen. I don't think in anybody's lifetime is there just a steady incline of success. With any person, there's going to be some pitfalls, and I mean, just look at the medium of a podcast. With it being more conversational, there's probably going to be some points where I bungle up words and say a lot of ums and whatever. But uh, it's a it's a different kind of interaction where maybe different individuals can get more connected and more valuable information, whereas if it was just an article or a newsletter. So
Absolutely.
I just want to thank you again. I think we've hit our time, and I know your time is valuable, so I will wrap this up. Thanks again for coming on the Security Nation podcast, and thank you, listeners who tuned in. And make sure you subscribe. We are on all the podcasting platforms, and the video version is available on YouTube. And if you're curious about how ESA membership can power your business, please make sure you visit esaweb.org and take some time to schedule a discovery call with our awesome membership team. You'll be happy you did, and have a great day, security pros. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah.